morning, good morning. Get on up, get on up. It is Saturday morning. Guess what? You are tuned into the longest running, most consistent cultural show in the Bahamas, Junkanoo 242. You are here with us in the Eshak this morning. A special good morning to our Family Island listeners. A special good morning to all of our Facebook viewers. But guess what? A special good morning to you. Get on up. This is Junkanoo 242. We are in the Eshak this morning. Things are going, I think it's hot already, man. We got a lot of things we want to discuss. But before I go any further, producer, in the name of Mr. Barefoot, how you doing, sir?
Good morning, sir. I'm wonderful. How are you today?
Boy, I doing good. I hope I don't get you too excited about this topic we discussing today, because you say a lot of profound stuff when it comes to Junkanoo, and guess what? We got an election coming up, but I ain't saying no more.
Let me ask you something. I see one fellow on the bottom of the screen. The two sides of his face white, but the middle black. What's that?
Listen, you know,
ain't nothing I can do with that.
that man ain't cost no more already.
Look like a woodpecker, man.
But before we go any further, let's get started with our Junkanoo prayer. Heavenly Father, for the gift of life, we give you thanks. For our nation, we pray for peace, prosperity, and principle, recovery and restoration. For ourselves, we pray for wisdom and to use your gifts wisely, especially the gift of Junkanoo, so that we may honor you, serve you and your people, build better communities, a better Bahamas, and a better world. Amen.
Amen.
Just to let everybody know, the other two hosts of the show, Arlene and Darren, have flew the coop. They say they're going to see a man by the horse, Ronald. I don't know where them two going this morning, right? But you might be able...
You all by your lonesome.
Yeah, you may be able to lend some insight to that. But we are in our proud to be Bahamian moment. And I got two things I want to share with the proud to be Bahamian moment. Is the first one is I saw our Olympian in the person of Isaac Bastian just picked up another postgraduate, I think, ACC scholarship, and that guy is killing records over there in FSU and doing a phenomenal job, man. I just want to say, you know, you're doing yourself proud, your family proud, and your country proud. Keep on keeping it up, keep on raising the standard. And my next proud to be Bahamian moment would be this morning, the National Cultural Commission. They are in their workshop, their first inaugural workshop this morning, and I'm happy that is under the way, because I know some great things are coming out of that commission, Ronald. There's going to be some good things coming out of that as we move to our 50th year of anniversary. We need to put some things on paper, put some things in motion, and get some things executed, especially from a cultural standpoint. So those are my proud to be Bahamian moments. Y'all had anything going on in your week that made y'all proud?
Let me share one with you. This morning on the Culture Caravan, I had the pleasure of having the Bahamas All-Stars Marching Band on with me, and their directors, Gail Outen, Ellie Burrows, Ricardo McQueen, and the director of band, Janelle Justillian. Mm-hmm. They're celebrating their 10th anniversary as a youth organization in this country, and they've been doing a tremendous work. Mm-hmm. Last 2 years, COVID held them back, but they were pleased to announce that they will be back in session this coming week.
That's good.
To pick up where they left off. And I want to say congratulations to them. They have done an amazing job as a youth organization over the past 10 years. Many of their members have gone on to receive scholarships through the organization and are back in the Bahamas as music educators in the school system. And many others are music educators across America. So they have had a tremendous impact.
Yeah, man, that is phenomenal that they're being highlighted for the work that they're doing. And, you know, it's so multifaceted, whereas they're learning the structure and the discipline that it takes to be, you know, a proper trained musician. And then through their love of it, they can continue their education for a lot of them through scholarships. That's phenomenal.
Yes, many young people.
Aaron, I want to mention, I know listening to Duane on Morning Blend this week on the 24th of this month. He called, I don't know if it's him or someone called what they call 242 Day. And I thought it was good, for Bahamians to be able to celebrate us. And I hopefully going forward, I'll be a day we always lay aside for 242. And I was happy that I put on my Bahamian outfit, and as I moved about, I saw individuals touting their Bahamian outfit. So I think that we should make that a national day when it comes to 242.
Sounding good. Ronald, you were going to say something?
No.
Oh, all right. So, folks, ladies and gentlemen, this morning we have another important show lined up for you, and we will formally introduce our guests when we get back. You're tuned in to Junkanoo 242. We'll be right back after this break.
Coming up on Pastor Rick Warren's Daily Hope.
Proverbs 11, verse 30. God's people are like trees that bear life-giving fruit. God's people, godly people, good people are like trees that bear life-giving fruit. They show their wisdom by saving souls.
You see what going down, babe? Them jokers running free. Need to go report what you see.
Me? For them to clip me next?
I ain't saying going to police directly.
Well, what you talking about then?
Call Crime Stoppers Bahamas. You can tell them directly what's going down.
Wait, Crime Stoppers is the police, you know?
No, my boy. When you call Crime Stoppers, they just answer your call in Miami or Toronto, Canada. So no one can know it's you. And you don't have to give them no personal information, because they just give you a pin.
Wait, what you talking about though?
They got their own system down there to get the information where it need to go. I just saying, if you ain't got nothing to lose, you might as well get these jokers off the street.
True, and so Crime Stoppers is the one that's give you plenty money for that hot news, like.
Yeah, and if you help the police with the arrest, from pin, you get some marlins. So I just saying, win-win, my boy.
So, what the number is though? Free up the number.
Do the right thing. Stop the crime before it's your time.
Bing.
Call Crime Stoppers Bahamas today at 328-8477 or from the Family Islands, 242-300-8477. It's safe, and the life you save may be your own.
This public service announcement was brought to you by Crime Stoppers in conjunction with the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.
From the Junkanoo archives on the Junkanoo timeline, the year was 1801. Ira Reid tells us that a John Canoe king was a fixture in the Bahamas. This is the earliest reference to Junkanoo in the Bahamas. Another important notch on the Junkanoo timeline. Welcome back, and the whistle has blown. We have all lined up. Ladies and gentlemen, this segment of the show is called The Rollover. And we have in our Ishak this morning with us our special guest. We're expecting one more guest to join us shortly. But we're going to start with this special guest. Ronham call him the guy with two gray and the black in the middle. All right? In the person of everybody know him as Denny. All right? But his real name is Mr. Dencil Rolle. Denny, as we all know you. Good morning and happy to have you here on Junkanoo 242.
It's good to be here.
You're no stranger to the show. You're no stranger, to Junkanoo, what's happening in Junkanoo. So what I would like for you to do is, the people that don't know Denny, can you give them a little introduction of your Junkanoo history?
Well, I entered Junkanoo in 1974. Then myself, along with Cornelius Clyde and Eddie Thompson, we decided that we want to start our own Junkanoo group. And at the time, we were all residing in the Grove. And we started a group. The first name we gave ourselves was the Exeter Street Aces. But that first parade that we went out in Boxing Day 1974, we got a consolation prize. And the prize that year was $25. And so after that parade, we were not happy with that consolation prize. And we were kind of ashamed because we thought we should have done better.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget, at the time, there was a dominating group in the Grove down the street from us called Hasty Lumberyard. And so, you know, those guys, they laugh us to scorn. Man, y'all get consolation and all of that. So we decided, you know what? We are a group of happy young teens. We're going to change our name and we can leave that consolation behind us. And so in 1975, we formulated the group called the Happy Youth. And I think we have been one of the most dominating groups in the juvenile division since we changed our name. In fact, I believe I heard colors bragging, but they were the first group to win 10 in a row. I think we were the first group to win 10 parades in a row because we were unstoppable. It even came to the point where they had the Guardian had this highlight. I'll always remember this. Watch out, Saxons and Valley. The happy youths are coming. That's just how bad we were at the time.
Okay.
But I really got my Junkanoo introduction in my hometown of Barrett, Exuma, where I was born. And, you know, every Christmas, my grandmother does and my mother does, in church, they used to have what they call the rush. And so on Christmas Day, before the service starts, they would rush around the church and they would call it the Junkanoo Rush. And I only later came to understand what they meant by that when I moved to Nassau in 1967 and I was living through Fowler Street. And down the street was, at the time, the music makers. They were called Pepsi Cola Boys back then. And man, I told my mom I wanted to rush. And I used to go by the shack and people what was going on as a little boy. But I can remember Churchill Roll saying the only way a child could rush with the Pepsi Cola Boys at the time was your mother had to give permission. But my mother wouldn't give permission for me to run. But she always took us to Junkanoo. So every year, what she called day clean, sun come up, she would take us to the Junkanoo parade. And I think that's how I got introduced to the Valley Boys. And that's how they became my favorite Junkanoo group. And I think the costume they brought that year was Uncle Sam. I might be wrong, but I thought when they passed, I said, my mother, that is my group. And later on, like I said, I became a Happy Youth, which is my main group. So I've been assisting any group. I'm one of those persons who I would say would cross the line when it comes to Junkanoo.
Okay.
Because as far as I am concerned, no Junkanoo group should stop me from coming and visiting them or helping them where I can. And anyone would tell you, where I live in Garden Hills, we have felt one family, music makers, Valley, Saxon, Prodigal Sons, every single A group there is, have came to me and they asked for material, whatever material I could lend them, paper, glue, contact, and I would assist. Because I believe in unity in anything I'm a part of. And so every Junkanoo group is my Junkanoo group. So, and I would do the same thing for every B category group.
So even in your involvement with Junkanoo, you've also been involved in administration in some organizations, correct?
Yes, I've been, like I said, the leader or co-leader of the Happy Youth. And in my transition, I think it was 2016. No, not 2016, 2013 or so, my sons joined Prodigal Sons. And I decided I would go with them.
Okay.
To help them in their introduction to Junkanoo. And so I was with the Prodigal Sons for a while as an executive member of the Prodigal Sons. And also, when it came to the Prodigal Sons, I was in charge of the prop section. And so the props were my thing with Prodigal Sons. And I was also asked and invited to be a member of the JCNP as a representative for the Prodigal Sons. And so I think, go ahead.
So then, I had a question for you. The music makers were always given credit for the phrase, they rob us. But you said you started that in 74. A consolation.
Listen, I like I said, I don't know if the music makers would want the place to say it, but I know we got robbed. So for a fact, I know we got robbed. Because I knew in that parade, we carry out the angels. And the same Hasty Lumberyard, they gave us the name the Potato Gang. Because on the hats of our costume, we had some little round thing was supposed to be little beacon, but they call them potatoes. So they gave us the name the Potato Gang. And that's even more reason for us to change our name because we didn't want to be known as the number one thing. The Street Aces would get the consolation and then someone calling us the Potato Gang. But Ronald, we did get robbed. So I don't know if we started the phrase or someone else started it, but we got robbed.
So it must have been you because in '74 the music makers were still going as the Pepsi group.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I wouldn't take all the credit, but I know we started that, but they robbed us. And you know, I always laugh after every parade. One or two groups would say they robbed us.
So
And talking about that, Ronald and Darren. I want to go back to something before. This might be outside the scope we'll be discussing today. But I am one of those who believe the parade should be announced immediately or as soon as possible after the parade. Because I believe a lot of people would begin to think that they're getting robbed when it could take a week and up to 2 and 3 weeks to announce the winners. So I think that's something that JCNP has to fix. And my recommendation for that is we deal with all penalties.
You bring it
immediately after the group finishes the lap. You battle it, and if you get your penalty, it's penalty. And so when the scores are announced, one time the winner is the winner, and no 2 weeks later or no week later, you come to announce who is the winner.
Boy, Danny, you said
okay, but going further in my involvement with Junkanoo after
because you threw on rock early this morning. Go ahead. After you was a JCNP rep for the protocol.
Yeah, well, see, one of the main reasons why I exited the Prodigal Sons was at the time, again, I feel we were being picked on. The Prodigal Sons got a lot of disqualification that I think were not fair to the Prodigal Sons as a group because, like I say, normally every parade, I study every scorecard for every group. And in my mind, what I saw was that they were picking on the Prodigal Son.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, I say, you know what? I've been a Junkanoo for all these years, and I don't like being associated with negativity. And so I said, you know what, let me just take a break from the Prodigal Sons and all of these disqualifications, even though I knew they weren't fair. And like I said, I have some proofs and some stuff that I can present to a court if I have to prove my point.
Oh, boy.
Because I don't just talk in my head without evidence. I decided I'll join my my wife cousin group, the Body of Christ Crusaders. And that is where I've been since then. But also, I have been a part of Genesis, the administrator of Genesis as a treasurer for 3 years. And you know, eventually I backed out of Genesis because I was supposed to be going back to my home base, which is the Valley Boys.
Okay.
Because I've been a Valley Boy since 1965. And anyone who tell you every group I go with and I help you, the first thing I tell you is, I am here to help you, but I want you to keep in mind that I am a Valley Boy. And they would tell you, I always tell them that. So I'm with your group, but I'm a Valley Boy.
Oh, boy.
And so everybody knows me as a Valley because my co-leader, I don't know if you know Eddie Thompson and Canadian Clyde, they were Saxon from 1974 when we started that group. So we constantly had our battle, Valley Boys and Saxon.
So
and
Danny, after becoming a rep for the Prodigal Sons, didn't you also hold some posts in the JCNP?
Yeah, I was coming back to that now. Coming back to that as part of the executive part of the JCNP. I was the treasurer for a number of years, I think about 8 years. And then the JCNP started this rule that stipulates that once you have been in a position for 6 years or 2 times, you had to back out. You couldn't run in that position anymore. So I had to vacate the treasurer post. And because the rules didn't hinder me from running for the assistant treasurer, I ran for the assistant treasurer post for a while. And I was there for a while before I eventually just decided to exit the executive level of the JCNP altogether and just remain as a floor member.
Okay.
I was also chairman of the business committee for the JCNP. And I work along with the outreach committee as well. So I've served in a number of capacities within the JCNP.
Okay, so this is critical. So you know exactly what we're talking about this morning. This morning, I want to bring especially the public up to date, in case they haven't heard as yet. On Wednesday, February the 23rd, there was a special call meeting for the JCNP and its members, and there was to poll the groups on a particular question. And the particular question was, because in spite of the pandemic and things that was happening, right, there was an understanding that the Constitution states that there's an election to be held every 3 years, and there were some things that, you know, hindered people from executing their offices as they thought they should have. And so the question was put to the floor whether there should be an election for March 2022 of this year, or should the executive body hold its post for another year. Danny, what was the results of that polling that took place?
Before I talk about the results,
yes.
Before I even talk about the results, see, the JCNP is a legal body with a constitution.
Okay.
Registered constitution, and I have it right up in front of me on my computer, my laptop, and it has the 2 certificates at the bottom to prove that the JCNP is a registered institution in the Bahamas, or a registered corporation in the Bahamas that can govern themselves accordingly.
Okay.
And I read through this over the past couple of days because when I went to the meeting, I showed up to the meeting and I heard that they had a meeting prior, but I had another meeting that I could not attend. And I can say right outright, whether they want to accept it or not, the polling was illegal and should not have occurred.
Why is that?
Not have occurred.
Why is that, Denny?
The JCNP said we have elections every 3 years. So how could you be polling us to say whether or not you should have an election when you should be planning election?
Okay.
You see, you don't poll to have election. You go according to the rule. Now, the government of the Bahamas, at the time, the F&M government under leader Hubert Minnis, he decided that he would call an early election. I can accept that because the Constitution of the Bahamas allows that. So he could call an early election. So he did nothing wrong. He did what was within the confines of the Constitution.
Okay.
A Constitution governs every organization, every country, and the least we should try and do is govern ourselves accordingly. Now, I know from the JCNP came into existence, I think in 2015, or I might be wrong, but I think it's 2015, the Constitution was not being adhered to. Okay? Now, we weren't adhering to the Constitution because the layout of the Constitution is totally different from the executive level that we are using now. That's not what the JCNP Constitution stipulates. And like I said, I've been a part of the executive level for about 10 years, and I knew the reason why what is being done was done. It was that's actually done to keep continuity of the organization. But the full organization in terms of the Constitution of the Junkanoo Corporation of New Providence is not being adhered to currently.
Okay,
we have a segment to keep Junkanoo alive.
We're gonna get back to that. We're gonna get back to that same Constitution, Danny. Don't put that far. But I want you to tell us, what was the results of the polling on Wednesday?
Okay, let's see. We need to get back to that.
Yeah,
so for me, number one.
Yes.
Okay, for me, number one, the poll should not have happened.
Okay, I understand
what should have been happening from the previous week. We should have been planning the election.
Okay. No,
okay. Second to that, Darren, what was disturbing to me when I came to the meeting? I was if I was not at the previous meeting, I think what should have happened, it should have been explained what was going to take place. So those of us who were not up to speed, at least would have an idea of what is taking place.
Danny,
we were told outright, no discussion.
No, Danny. One could say that, right? One could say that, but if we be fair, there was a communication that was sent out after the meeting, and there was a communication that was sent out prior to the meeting, letting you know what was happening. Each group have more than one rep that has the ability to attend meetings. Now, you can't spend time in every meeting going over what you did in the last meeting. All right? Especially if you know.
No, Darren, I'm not saying going over.
Yes.
No, I'm not saying going over, you know. I'm saying just briefly explain to us what transpired in the last meeting
Okay.
that led up to the poll.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
No problem.
Why? See, to me, I still don't know why the poll was being held, even though I saw communication. But the communication that I received just told me that there's going to be a poll. I never saw no minutes to say what took place. And we got to do this thing the way it should be done. What should have happened? The minutes of that meeting should have been sent to the group representative so we could read and understand what transpired. That didn't happen.
Okay.
And so what I'm saying, while I agree with you to a point that we can discuss, but come on, man, send us the minutes so we could read what transpired in that meeting, and you would get an understanding of why the poll was being held.
Okay, no problem. So we
now hold on. Third problem I had was there's a number of groups that were in the house, groups that are members of the board. of the Junkanoo Corporation of New Providence that were not allowed to vote. Now, one member group said to me they brought their dues and they were told that they can't take their dues. Okay. Now, I used to be the treasurer.
Yes.
I'm an executive of JCNP for 8 to 10 years. I know every year before this time, a communication is sent out to remind group number one of registration and to pay their dues so that they can be financial to make whatever activity transpires within the organization. Now, I guess the group should have been ahead of themselves and say, you know what, this happened every year, let me pay my dues. But a lot of them were sitting back probably waiting on the communication. So if a group brought their members to pay their dues at that meeting, their dues should have been taken.
Well, Danny, okay. Danny, if we're standing on the point that this communication did not come out, but you're sticking to your point as the Constitution should have been planning an election, right? Then that means by the election, whether this communication was sent out anyway or any time, there's a cutoff date in the Constitution that tell groups when they need to pay their dues to be current. Correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay then. So either we're gonna stick by the Constitution all the way, or we're not. We ain't got there can't be no gray area.
Darren, okay. You remember what that date is?
If I remember what the date is, not off the top of my head. No.
Okay, let me give you an example. The last communication that was sent out regarding registration of parade and dues was April 18th of 2018.
Okay, Danny.
Okay, because
Danny,
we are not 2019.
No, I'm not discounting what you're saying. But the groups that we're talking about, right? They know the process. They know what is asked of them. Okay? We're not asking like somebody's trying to hide something from them. If we're going to stick to the Constitution, let's stick to the Constitution. Don't let's say, we sticking to the Constitution on one point, we sticking to not on this point. Now, let's fast forward just a little bit because guess what? According to you and all of this of what didn't happen, which communication didn't come out, is now mute. Because guess what? Where are we? What took place? What was the result of the polling on Wednesday?
Okay. The results of the polling was 12-11 in favor of an election.
Okay. So
12-11 in favor of an election, right?
So we're going. What you're telling me is now that we're going to election. Okay, folks, you heard it here. We're going to election. The JCNP is having an election, and what that means is the following offices that were held will now be, first there will be a date for nomination, and then there will be an election. That is correct, Danny?
That's correct.
Okay, so you have the following posts were held by the respective people. The chairman of the JCNP in the person of Mr. Dion Miller, the vice chairman, Mr. Eric Scrap Knowles, the treasurer, Mr. Andrew Edwards, the assistant treasurer, Mr. Duane Ellis, secretary, Miss Natasha Dillett, assistant secretary, Mr. Ivan Thompson, and the public relations officer, Mr. Darren Farrington. So the following officers will now become available during nomination time, which is chairman, vice chair, treasurer, assistant treasurer, secretary, assistant secretary, and public relations officer. Why I'm stressing this is because this is the time now, and I would say this is a national call for people who said that they don't know when JCNP elections happen. All right, they don't know what offices are available. All right, get with your group rep, and start the talking, because now nomination day is coming up. All right, and those places, those posts will now be available for somebody to be elected into from your organization. Right? That is correct.
Let me ask a question.
Go ahead.
That's correct.
Danny, your position is a little concerning to me, because I seem to hear you suggesting that there was an illegal attempt to extend the terms of officers of the JCNP by violating the mandates of the Constitution?
Yeah, no, see, the reason, therefore, the reason why I'm saying that is because the Constitution stipulates elections should be held every 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's in the Constitution, and that's what I'm going to govern myself by.
Okay.
This is not in my opinion. This is not my opinion. This is the Constitution of the JCNP that we have been operating on since 2015.
And
we have never had anything like this happen before, and so to me, it's like I say, I guess it's irregular. It is irregular.
A lot of people said that this pandemic was an irregular event. This isn't something that has happened every 3 years or every 6 years.
But Darren, it didn't stop the Commonwealth of the Bahamas from having an election. It didn't stop Barbados from having an election.
And guess what?
It didn't stop. Listen, Darren,
hold on, Daddy. Here's what the argument point would be. One of the argument point people would say is that I agree with you that there were countries that had elections, because even in the pandemic, the country still functioned. However, hold on, as an organization that is responsible for carrying out parades, they did not function. So a lot of people are under the notion or the opinion that the people in those posts did not have a chance to execute. So their positions were, quote unquote, was halted. Their tenure was halted for a lot of people, according to their opinion. That's one argument that is being said. It's not that they're trying to do something illegally.
But that don't change the timeline. That don't change. It's 3 years regardless. But there's also another statement that Denny made.
Yes.
That caused for concern. That for years the JCNP has not been adhering to its constitution.
Yes, and like I said, Ronald, you are right. And I figure my point in this doing this downtime, the one thing I thought we had been working on is our constitution and getting it to the point where we could function accordingly.
Okay.
But we before the use the time to talk about, I had time to serve. Listen, why we didn't take that 2 years to work on the constitution and to work on those things in the JCNP to make the JCNP a better functioning organization? I accept no excuse. 3 years is 3 years, and whether you serve or plan parades or not, the time is up. Let's plan election for the upcoming year is what should have been happening.
Okay, now, we're in that mode. I know.
During this tenure, let me finish. Let's amend the Constitution to state that because those individuals did not serve, yes, but you can't do that when it's time for election. You should have done that before.
My question to you further is, why was the JCNP operating outside of the terms of its constitution for the time you mentioned?
Barefoot, me and you have the same question. I asked the question after the meeting because I got attacked after the meeting.
You got attacked?
As if the person knew who I voted for. They called me as a bunch of this, bunch of that. All y'all is this.
Hold on, Denny. How could they know who you voted for and you voted via secret ballot?
That's my point. But they came after me and I told them the same things you say about me, I can say about you. Okay. So you ain't gonna attack my character answer because I stand up for what is right. I don't allow anyone to influence me to do what is not right. My principle in life is live by the laws. Live by the laws.
Well,
and see, that's how I've always been. And anyone who know me know I can stand up for what is right and which is within the laws of the land of the Constitution of the JCNP. Like I said, I've been on the JCNP as an executive for 10 years and as a member for 12.
Okay, so
And anything that was being done outside of that, I fight against it.
okay, Ronald, I want us, we're gonna run to our break and we're gonna pick up to your question, the structure of the JCNP, because I would like people to understand how things are done in the JCNP, how things are voted on, and how they get elected, nominated, how things come to the floor, because that is important, and that will also lend to the question that you have, Ronald. Folks, you're listening to Junkanoo 242. This is the longest, most consistent cultural show in the Bahamas. We highlighting Junkanoo. We'll be right back.
Yeah, and there's lots for it. Every Saturday between the hours of 8 and 10 p.m. with yours truly, Mr. Pugh on cue. You can call in and request your favorite Bahamian song.
Call 325-540-34 or 5. Toll free on the Family of Islands, 1242-300-8255.
So if you're ready to rake and shred, do some sculling to the goat skin drumming, Family Islanders, you call it in and ask for it. With yours truly, Mr. Pugh on cue.
Family Island, you ask for it. Saturdays, 8 to 10 p.m. on the National Voice, 1540 a.m. Power 104.5 FM.
Family Islanders, you ask for it.
The Princess Margaret Hospital Blood Bank is in urgent need of blood donations of all types. Blood bank hours of operation are as follows. Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. The last donor will be accepted at 4:30 p.m. On Sundays, the blood bank is closed. Identification needed for donation include your NIB card or driver's license. Do not attempt to donate if you are sick or experiencing respiratory symptoms. Do not come to the blood bank in large groups, as we will be accommodating 3 persons at a time. For more information on how you can become a blood donor or instructions on what to do before coming to donate blood, please contact the blood bank at 502-7822.
From the Junkanoo Library, filed under R for religion. Did you know that in traditional West African religious culture, there's no separation between sacred and the secular? Everything was sacred. Life in general. Their rituals and ceremonies were therefore spiritual in nature. And when they recreated them in the Bahamas, in what is today known as Junkanoo, the same applied. Our Junkanoo, deeply powerful, and we're so proud of it. Welcome back. You tuned in to Junkanoo 242, the whistleblower, and we all lined up. And it's now time for our first lap, folks. We are getting deep into it. This is Junkanoo 242, and we're getting an update from the JCNP standpoint. Folks, they on their way to election. All posts are available up to be nominated for. Make sure you contact your group, see if you can be in one of these posts and get up. You have chairman, vice chair, treasurer, assistant treasurer, secretary, assistant secretary, and public relations officer. I see we have our next guest just join us. Mr. Ellis, how you doing this morning, sir? You're still muted.
Hey, what's going on?
How you doing this morning, man?
Feeling good this morning.
You're feeling good. Oh, I hope you was listening to the show before you tuned in, because you see,
I come to help you because luckily you bad man.
No, in my capacity at this time right now, I am at the point where I am the host of the show. So that cap of what Denny is speaking to, I have to let him vent and get it all off of his chest. So he cannot say that we throw salt in his mouth, so to speak, and he wasn't able to speak freely. But we're speaking to what took place on Wednesday in the polling of the groups and the JCNP executives and the JCNP body as itself now going to election. And one of the things Jenny was speaking to was the Constitution, in which we have to abide ourselves by. Now, my question is what I want to deal with is, how are decisions made in the JCNP in terms of structure-wise? Duane, I'd like for you to talk to me about that. How are decisions made in the JCNP? Is it made as a executive body level? Is it one person like a chairman that could say, here's where we're going in this direction? What is the structure of the JCNP?
Well, I can only talk about what we have done in the last 3 years. You know, Dencil and they somewhat are the godfathers or the creators of this system. But basically, since we have been in there, and we're serving as an executive too, you know, from inside it always appeared as though there was a few persons who made these decisions. And we realized that the same decisions are made by all of the groups.
Okay.
Same people that before the parade, the same people that cry after the parade and have all the issues. We are the ones who create the system. We make the rules. We make the amendments, make the changes, whatever, but everybody has voting powers. The A groups have, two votes compared to B groups that have one. And I think the independent organization, they have one vote. But in terms of what you're asking, everything that is done above board. And all of the decisions are made collectively by all of the member groups. The executives, we make decisions based on at the executive level for things that concern us internally on small issues. But any issue that is to be changed the Constitution or to change the way forward, everything is done collectively by all member groups.
Okay.
I want to go back to my question. Denny alleged that the JCNP was operating in violation of its constitution for many years. I want to know, why was that the case, and why was it continuing to happen? There have been a lot of allegations flying around for years that the JCNP was doing some illegal stuff. With Denny's allegation, it kind of seemed to confirm that some stuff may have been going on. So let's put that out in the open.
Okay, but okay, Barefoot, this is what we're trying to get to. And the question is, how could something be going on underhandedly if for a decision to be made at the JCNP, any decision, it isn't made at an executive level. It isn't made at an individual level. It is made on the floor. Is that correct, gentlemen? Somebody has their radio on. I need you to turn that down for me. I'm getting a feedback.
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay, so that is made. It's made on the floor. So Ronald, I don't know what underhandedness.
Listen, it don't matter where the decision was made. If a board member, a long-standing board member, comes on this radio program live and say that the organization has been operating outside of its constitution, that is cause for concern.
No. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can hear you, Duane.
I'm unable to hear, Darren.
All right. I can hear you clearly. I think you probably need to log off and join back in.
Okay, no problem.
All right. Okay. So, all right. I was just trying to get the understanding of the structure, because you have in the JCNP, you have an executive body, you have the member groups.
Go ahead, Darren. Just to
Jenny, we can hear you. Go ahead.
what I want to say, Darren, to kind of help Ronald the original constitution of the JCNP, and I'll challenge anyone or anybody anywhere. We are not operating under that constitution. What we did was to keep the JCNP functioning. We use a different level. Okay, let me give an example what I mean by that. The original constitution of the JCNP states there will be 15 directors, 9 of whom shall be selected by Junkanoo groups, 5 shall be independent persons selected for their professional contribution to the operation of the company and the chief executive officer. Then it talks about a board of advisors. See, this is what I'm referring to. That I'm saying that we have not been operating on. And like I say, I would challenge anyone to tell me I am incorrect, because it operated the same way when I was there as the tail that we're using now at the executive level. Because the initial agreement with that when the JCNP was started, the government was supposed to give the JCNP a grant of $1 million. And this grant should have included a full-time chief executive officer, an accountant, a secretary, and a messenger. This never happened.
So
in starting the JCNP, to keep it functioning, the group decided that the group leaders at the time decided that they would go to the level that we are now, where we have a chairman, a deputy chairman, a treasurer, an assistant treasurer, a secretary. So the current 7-level executive team that we use now was the kind of put in place to run the JCNP.
Because the
what I'm
funding is not
alluding to
there?
is, as Ronald said, why did we never try to get to the level of what the JCNP should be?
Yeah,
rather than continue to operate the same way as we're doing now, and that is why we have things happen that should not be happening.
Hello.
Go ahead, Duane. We can hear you.
Danny, you almost criticizing yourself because you served on the executive
I am criticizing myself.
Okay.
How long you been on that level?
I am criticizing myself. I am doing, because anyone will tell you, when I became a part of the JCNP, I always brought up getting us to being and doing what the constitution of the JCBN said should be happening.
Okay.
But I always run out of the building.
So
okay.
Is that
Well,
that's the only point right there? You're saying that they're not operating outside of because of that funding. Those things were not put in place, and so they.
Yeah, that's the only point. But all
Okay.
with the current level of executive level we have now, that is what has been agreed to.
Okay.
That's what has been agreed to.
So
I'm not
what needs to happen is, if that funding is not there to put those directors and other levels in place, they need to amend the constitution or make a way for those to put the body that they have in place in the constitution.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And that's all I was saying for years. Either we now add this element of it in the constitution of the JCSC, then we have to be real. Okay, if we have a constitution, we want to operate within the constitution, we have to do what needs to be done.
Danny, I agree with you, and I'm so happy that you came on Junkanoo 242 to get that out. And if they didn't hear you loud and clear, they probably wasn't listening. But there needs to be, that's one point that needs to be addressed in the Constitution moving in. Once there's a new executive board that is elected in this upcoming election.
Exactly.
Darren.
Yes, sir.
Let me just add, Danny, I think your timing is perfect.
Yes.
Because like Darren says now, we're in election mode. We're just waiting on some persons to step up to the plate. And I think it's time that we do revise, because there needs to be some changes, and I'm sure everybody will agree across the divide that there need to be some revision to the Constitution, like the Constitution of this country too, if you want to bring it up, because some things that were factored in 1973, this is now 2022, there are some things that have to change. And I'm totally in agreement.
Exactly.
I'm glad you're exposing it, so that persons who are now putting themselves into the hat will know that they have a lot of work to do going forward.
Yes.
So it's good that the timing is perfect.
But this conversation also draws light to the fact that Junkanoo and the JCNP need to find a way to become a self-sustaining organization and stop depending on government to fund them.
We totally agree. We totally agree with you with that.
Barefoot, listen to me. And like I said, I only can speak for my time. And when Silbert was the chairman, we actually tried a number of things where we were trying to become self-sufficient and divorce ourselves from the government.
Okay.
And I could be straight up and tell you, the people who knock it, well, not leaders, but Junkanoo groups who knocked it. Not so much outsiders, but groups themselves. And see, Silbert may not want to be say, but Silbert can frame this with you, where there were times we were trying. We had all kinds of things on the board, and the groups knock it down. We should have been self-sufficient from years ago.
I have a question.
Years ago.
I have a question. If you guys would indulge me just for a bit. My question is the way how things are structured. It's kind of like everything is run by consensus inside the JCNP. That is correct, right? The majority rules. So if, quote unquote, the majority of the people are making decisions that are, quote unquote, not in the best interest or into the objective of the JCNP, then that majority still carries as to what happens.
Yes.
Do we feel as though that there's an issue with that type of structure and that structure need to be changed in terms of, like, quote unquote, there must probably be some type of mandate that the JCNP has in place in order before, regardless of what the consensus brings to the floor, if it does not meet that mandate and what the JCNP body is trying to carry out, that would be rejected? What do you guys think of that?
Let me answer it first.
Okay.
The Constitution is like the Bible. Everything starts and is governed by the Constitution. We know that. That's a fact. A lot of things that happen within that room may not be legal in terms of what the Constitution says, but like you say, Darren, it's always overwritten by what the majority of persons may say.
The consensus.
Right.
It says blue, and then we say, okay, hold on, we say let's do it red. But it doesn't change, like Danny is saying, that this is what the Constitution says. But the reality is what happens. We could always speak about what should happen.
So
the reality is actually what happens in that room. A lot of people do not know. Maybe we need to go on, do a public forum like how the parliamentary channel is. Prior to that, a lot of people only assumed what took place in Parliament. Now Parliament is open to the wider payment community so everybody can actually see.
They can see who vote, vote what way.
A lot of the issues that I hear and I see people from the individual groups who are on the floor is that their representation never come back to them. So in that aspect, a lot of people don't know what's happening on one. And then I guess the leaders, whoever the reps are, they tell you what they want to tell you. But what happens a lot of time is that the people who are speaking, a lot of people speak from personal opinion rather than going back to the group and getting the wider group opinion on spicy. That's a major problem. But what Danny is saying, I totally agree. Going into this election, whoever the new leader will be, that should be a part of his mandate. The first thing we need to do is sit down collectively, create a blueprint, which is the Constitution, and let's govern by it, and let's abide by it, unless... Now, only one thing I wanted to say prior to, I think, Danny really mashed it up, but the change that was questioned was because of the COVID situation that the current board only served, I guess, one full Junkanoo season. We actually sat out for two. So the question just came up, okay, should we allow them to do the two that, was missed because of COVID? Or do we just stick to the Constitution or whatever? The question came up. It went to the floor. The information went out to the various bodies and groups. And then we came back and we made a decision on Wednesday. It's time for election. Put the names in the hat. Let's get the nominations and the nominees out. And let's make the way forward. But it has to be done collectively, Danny. And I think we need to invite a lot of public-private partners into what we're doing if we're going to actually move away from government.
Right.
If we can move away from government, we need the money to make it happen. People, a lot of persons in business that are out there, I think are willing to assist us in terms of making the way forward. But like you saying, if we're going to structure it like a corporation, we have to now go back to the public and show them that we're capable of doing it. Because remember, when we left after the last parade, we left with a sore taste in the public's mouth. So we got a lot of cleaning up to do to win the public back. We didn't leave now. The parade left with a lot of controversy.
Duane,
before you can get to that, well, cleaning up the image first, cleaning up the image,
everything, right?
Creating a new mission statement, creating a new vision. I guess if that's what we have to do, and let's see if we can sell it to persons who are willing to invest, and then we can go with the way forward. But I totally agree with you. If you have a constitution, you have to abide by it.
See, and Duane, let me tell you the other thing. I have other thing. Like I said, I was not at that first meeting, but I was told that a lawyer was in the room. And the lawyer told them from a legal mind that what you're doing is not correct. Okay? Now, you have a legal person who was involved in Junkanoo, who has done legal work on behalf of the JCNP before, who is deeply involved in Junkanoo.
When you came to the polling meeting, because I just want to make sure you hear this before the meeting, because they ain't tell you what the meeting was about, but they tell you what the lawyer say.
No, they didn't tell me what the lawyer said. I wasn't told what the lawyer said. See, like I said, I learned a lot of things afterward because, like I said, I got attacked after the meeting. I got attacked. When I say attacked, I was confronted.
We had three lawyers. We had three lawyers, and two of them had conflicting views. But go ahead. That's why he's smiling.
Okay, but anyhow, what I'm saying is,
here's my issue. Here's my question to it. My question to it is this. If you have a document or an organization that is run by consensus, meaning that majority rules, and there's a constitution, a document that's supposed to govern the body, when there's something that is being questioned, it should not go to the floor for majority vote. It should be governed by the Constitution.
Okay.
But that's not what we have seen happen. We've seen different things take place, and the floor says, oh, we run the JCNP, and so we're voting a majority.
And that's not true. That is not true.
Danny,
see, Darren, let me show you something.
What's supposed to happen is that Constitution overrides everything.
Yes, but it doesn't.
Everything. See, Darren, listen to me. I said before the meeting started, when we were told about it, even though I said I would agree, let it go on because there's nothing I can do at this time. But I made the statement, it was said that 8 category groups have 2 votes. And I said based on the Constitution, when you're polling, you have 1 vote. When election, we agree that you have 2 votes. So polling and election is different. But 8 groups were allowed to vote, carry 2 votes, which was told on me, again, in my mind, based on the Constitution, incorrect. I said poll gets 1 vote. 1. So why didn't we decide, hold on, since we want to have this poll, why don't we get together and look at what the Constitution allows?
Duane, you wanna speak to that?
Okay, hold on, hold on a minute. Wait.
Go ahead?
Go ahead, Duane. Yeah, go ahead.
I am not going to sit and act as if I know the Constitution back and front like you did. I think you're probably more well-versed on it. But I would have agreed with you and supported you. I think we probably need to keep a copy of the Constitution in that room at all times. You made that point, but it was like it was just washed off because nobody even paid attention to what you were saying. So I was figuring, Danny just said on feelings.
Right, remember, it's right, exactly.
If that Constitution there and you could prove it, then you should have stuck to what you said, and that should have been null and void. But in any event, like Darren's saying, it's happened. So in essence, it's almost like we didn't do anything wrong because at the end of the day, we still having the elections, which is mandated and by the Constitution for us to do in any event.
Yeah.
But I think we need to, especially executives and representatives, once you come in there, we need to get more well-versed on what the Constitution says. What we tend to do is just pull out pieces of the Constitution to suit us. When it don't suit us, push it under the rug. But unless we just get an independent legal mind and then it's not affiliated with anybody. Because even though we had legal persons in there, you know how we go as Bahamians. Oh, that's Genesis, oh, that's Roots, oh, that's Saxons. whether the person is considered, and that person is, we had about 4 legal minds in there. But we will always relay it back to the person is only doing what's beneficial for their group rather than what the Constitution says. So we just need to become more right. Constitution.
Well, I just got some information, handed to me. All right, this when you're on Junkanoo 242, you just get the quick stuff. All right, 2 years ago, when the pandemic hit, a decision was made to suspend practice of requiring groups to pay yearly dues due to the suspension of Junkanoo parades. All groups that were updated during the last Junkanoo season would be deemed current when the business of the JCNP resumed. At the conclusion of the last active Junkanoo season, all groups' dues were debated from their were deducted from their prize funds. Besides the Music Makers, Foundation, Ultimate Force, and Mystical Bombers. Junkanoo groups, as none of the above, participated in the 2019-2020 Junkanoo Parade, resulting in 0 allegations of prize monies to take their dues from. Eric Knowles paid the foundation dues and Natasha Lightborn paid Music Makers dues. None of the other listed groups paid their dues during the past 2 years. New groups sought to apply for entry and submit dues were denied due to the suspension of JCNP activity. So, you see what happened there? Nobody denied them from paying. There was no business being conducted.
Okay, Steve, well, Darren, had this information been given to me, then I would have been able to probably speak this.
This information ought to be given to you. This information was given to the relevant groups who was not financial.
Listen, hold on. No, listen, Darren, listen what I'm saying.
As a deputy treasurer, myself and Andrew Edwards send that information to all the groups. See, now you almost sounded like the person in the group who ain't get the information. You can't.
No, that's what I'm saying. I think, like I'm saying, I wasn't aware of this.
If the information trickle down,
I wasn't aware of this.
Okay, folks, when we get back, we're going to pick up this conversation. We got to run to our quick break. The producers
I can retract that part of the news.
Okay, we got to go to break. We're going to pick this up on the next side of the break. And listen to Junkanoo 242. We'll be right back.
Respect the sign. When vehicles without an accessible parking permit use a parking space designated for persons with disabilities, even for just a minute, that's 60 seconds too long. The abuse of accessible parking spaces is a daily frustration for persons with disabilities. It is inconsiderate, insensitive, and hinders persons with disabilities from effectively conducting business and actively participating in community life. Never park in a space reserved for people with disabilities unless you have a permit to do so. It is the right and respectful thing to do. This message is brought to you by the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities, a unit in the Ministry of Social Services and Community Development. For more information, visit www.disabilitiescommissionbahamas.org.
Examples of excellence. The rich Junkanoo career of Jack Sanders has taken him from leading the Happy Youth Juveniles group in the early 1980s to a number of other groups and to the individual category where he presently participates. But it is for a scientific Junkanoo genius that Jack imprint on Junkanoo is already indelible. In 2004, driven by his love for Junkanoo and the increased demand for cowbells, Jack began producing single, double, triple, and quadruple bells, along with dancer bells for church, for use in church, and with local calypso bands. He introduced the bucket bell in 2005, and the stroker and double bells for adults, along with single and double bells for children in 2006. Every year, new creations emerge. It is because of his experimentation the Junkanoo music continues to move forward. Jack Sanders, outstanding inventor and scientist. This week's inductee into the Junkanoo 242 Shack of Excellence. Welcome back. You're listening to Junkanoo 242. Go ahead, Denny.
Congratulations to Jack. A happy you. In a lot of states. No, but Darwin, I want to ask Ellis a question because I'm reminded that once the new business start of the JCNP year starts, all groups are allowed to pay their dues. So what you were saying might be correct, but what we are starting now is a new year for the JCNP because we didn't have any meeting during the pandemic, and these meetings were recently called. So I don't know if you guys consider this the start of the new year, the new business year, and if it is, those groups should have been allowed to pay.
Well, go ahead, Dwayne.
They should have been allowed to pay dues because that's the JCNP rule.
Danny, I think we closing out. I say we haven't actually started the new season as yet. Why I'm saying if you look at in terms of when it starts and when it ends. So basically what we're doing is getting ready to close out.
Exactly. Right. Because those goes from April 1st to March 31st.
I agree with you.
So we're on the end part of the year. We picked up business in the last season.
Yeah. We're just wrapping up.
All right. So that's clear, Danny. That's clear.
Yeah.
So we don't want nobody think that you don't want nobody think that they're being disenfranchised.
So even at the end of the year, this is when the notice. I mean, listen. I don't know how we could think that. In fact, I was supposed to ask those groups that were there who were not allowed to vote, did they get notice to come and vote? You see, because if they were not financial, should they not have gotten? They should not have been gotten any notice for the poll. Which again, still in my mind, I fully accepted that as legal.
But I want to switch
gears. Groups got.
I want to switch gears just for a bit.
If those groups got notice of this meeting, they should have been allowed to pay their dues. See, Darwin, I try to. My main point of why I'm talking this way is because I want whoever the new crew is to get it right. Let's begin to do what we're supposed to be doing and doing it correctly.
Go ahead, Dwayne.
Let me say one more. Let me say one more thing on this consensus thing.
Danny, is that in the Constitution?
What's that?
What you just say?
See, I can't say it in the Constitution because they fall in the Constitution. They follow in that. So it might very well. Because I get this a long document. This document of some 20-something pages. Because I can go and look for that portion.
But this is one of the things. I want to switch gears just for a bit, and I'm glad I have
before you go Darwin, let me speak to this before you go, Darwin. We talk about the consensus. No, we talk about consensus in the room.
Yes.
And like I say, I've accepted it, but I don't agree with it totally. Let me tell you why. When we're doing things on that floor, my personal view is we should meet, the JCNP executive should meet with the leaders on certain issues before we allow the floor to decide it. Because as Duane rightly said, a lot of times what I see in that room, I see people giving their personal opinion or their personal views towards what's transpiring on the floor.
Danny.
Now, hold on. See,
Danny, hold on.
I
have to stop you there.
Before I vote on anything.
Hold on, Danny. I have to stop you there because if I am selected to be a representative for an organization to sit in the room for something, I am of the notion that I have been trusted to actually sit there on behalf of my organization. Not to say that I am going to make decisions on behalf of my organization, but if you have to meet with my leader and not with the rep, what am I there for? Cheaper, you just meet with the leaders all the time.
No. Now, let me tell you why I say that, why I made that statement. And I could, leaders will tell you.
You don't trust some of the group reps? That's what you said?
No, I don't trust. It had to do with trust, you know. That's why I said that. I have a lot. I had a lot through the years of group leaders who called me after meetings and asked me what happened on the floor of the JCNP or what we discussed.
But
that's not to me.
That's
that
not
this group.
That's not a breakdown in the JCNP's communication. That's a breakdown between leader and rep.
Yes.
And what that leader should do is get rid of that rep. Why are you trying to make this a JCNP problem?
No, listen to what I'm saying. The Constitution stipulates, again, let's go back to the Constitution. Let me read it. There will be 15 directors, 9 of whom shall be selected by the Junkanoo group.
We didn't pass that point, Eddie. We need to amend that point in the Constitution.
Listen, Darren, listen to me. How many persons on our floor there's been non-members or just people who are sitting there to give us direction? None.
No, but Danny,
none.
We cleared this up earlier in the show.
There should be at least 5.
We cleared this up earlier in the show on those amendments that need to be moved. But before we run out of time, I need to get your expertise and Duane's expertise in another area. And seeing that the JCNP is heading into election mode, and you guys are seasoned Junkanoos, but also seasoned in your craft and what you're doing, but also JCNP reps, and you guys even hold offices on the JCNP. And moving forward, what are some of the things that the JCNP executives need to look to implement to help this organization progress forward?
Let me go first, and I'll let the senior man wrap up. I honestly think we need to change the structure.
Okay.
The structure that everybody talks about is moving away from government's intervention or funding. We can do it if we set up somewhat of a corporation, and like Danny says, initially that is what was intended.
Okay.
I think it's time now that we try to implement it, get some private funding. We still be in partnership with the government, but very limited partnership in terms of what they say to us. They will still have the NJC, which is their arm, which is the government's arm in terms of structure and what they want to see and what they want to do. But at the end of the day, it is clear cut that the JCNP is only responsible for the 2 major Junkanoo parades. Maybe we need to change that whole formula.
What else would
Maybe the whole formula needs to change.
What else would you add? What else would you add?
Give us the autonomy to expand, to go to the private people, to go above, to go beyond, to go outside the scope of the Bahamas. My thing is, we always talk about taking it to the next level and the amount of revenue that can be generated. But for years and years and years, it's just been about talk.
Okay.
Maybe now this new board, new committee, new execs, they probably need to take the mandate. Like I said, rewrite the vision, rewrite the motto, change some things in the Constitution, because we all agree that that Constitution is outdated. Some things have to be changed. Westminster, like, we need to throw Westminster in the bottomless pit to some extent. But we need to now make it more revenue generated, for one, and 2, let's create more employment.
Okay.
We always talk about it. We talk about this plan, but when it's time to execute, everybody, all the workers go missing. It's like there's a lot in the field, but the people say they ain't got no workers. Let's put the talk on the side. And the piggyback of what you say, I'll wrap up now, which always been a part of your mission, is let us learn the art of Junkanoo and move away from parades and come in first and second and third.
Okay.
You know, we need to create that blueprint, like we said in the event, that this generation, Danny, a Scrap, a Arlene Nash Ferguson, a Vola Francis, a Barefoot, when those people move off the scene, I always ask that question, then what?
Yeah.
The generation gap in between really does not know the purpose of Junkanoo. We don't carry the mantle, and because we don't, we allow all of the external things to come into play, and it's watered it down. It has changed it from what its original plans were, and at the end of the day, we just about who carry the most money and who come for second and third. Yeah. There's no more enjoyment to Junkanoo as it was intended originally, I think, by the forefathers. So I think the new execs coming out of the pandemic, they really have a lot of work to do in terms of propelling Junkanoo to the next level. That's how I see it, Chris.
Boy, Duane, with that speech sound like you running for chairman.
No, man.
Denny, let's hear your comments, sir.
I agree and support Duane 100%, because I would have said the exact same thing. But what I would add, Darren, and I think you and I had conversation on this, writing the mission and making it clear. The mission of the JCNP. And I sure you and I had conversation on this before.
Yes.
So we got to get this mission right. The other thing that I would like to see change is the like I say, the adjudication of penalties, so that once we announce our parade, they are final, one and done. I think, like I said, Duane, in a nutshell, Duane said everything that I think should happen, and if what he said happened, and like you said, we add the mission and making it clear to it, I think we will be heading in the right direction.
Boy, those are some good points in moving forward, folks. We're gonna run to our final break, and when we get back, we'll get closing remarks from these guys. They didn't have the show hot, people talking about Constitution being attacked, asking all type of these questions. You're tuned in to Junkanoo 242, the longest cultural show and the most consistent here in the Bahamas. We'll see you on the next side of the break.
Here on this radio station is governed by IRCA's Code of Practice for Content Regulation. The Code of Practice covers matters relating to program content that are of concern to the community, such as local content, news, current affairs, and programs for children, advertising, including political advertisements, and the responsibilities associated with broadcasting in the Bahamas. The code also covers aspects such as access services for the hearing and visually impaired, and the procedure for lodging a complaint about anything broadcast by this station. The code is available on the IRCA website at www.ircabahamas.bs. To receive a copy of the code by mail or in person, you may telephone IRCA at 242-393-0234. Family Island dialing is toll-free at 1-242-300-8722. Or you may send a request by email to info@ircabahamas.bs.
And now for news off the shock wall. Happy birthday greetings to everyone celebrating a birthday at this time, especially Langston Longley, Jackie Popel Duncombe, Charlene Wallace, Marvin Wims, and Elizabeth Grant. And a special happy birthday goes out to my one and only little panda, Darren Maricia Farrington, who turns 4 today. Happy birthday, baby. Daddy loves you. And to everyone else who is celebrating at this time, have a happy and a prosperous new year. I can't forget my niece, who's also celebrating on this day, Keziah Nen. So I have one niece and one daughter celebrating on the exact same day. Condolences to the families of all who is grieving the loss of loved ones at this time. Our prayers and our thoughts and words of comfort are with you. You are asked to please support a medical fundraiser in aid of Thomas Smitty Smith of One Family. It will take place today, February 26th, from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. at St. Agnes Preschool, Market and Cockburn Streets. Chicken, steak, and fish, and your choice of peas and rice and choice of sides is available. You can call Miranda at 818-0940. You probably just need to go by St. Agnes and pick up your food, bring your money, and get everything that you need to support Thomas Smitty Smith. And the countdown, it is Saturday, February the 26th. Bear, we are 43 hopeful weeks away from Bay. Man, don't laugh at me, man. We trying to get to Bay.
hopeful.
We gotta stay hopeful. But folks, I mean, thank you for joining us at Junkanoo 242.
I hear they be doing something, Darren.
Yep, mommy. Listen. You caused me start tapping my foot. But is there anything you guys would want to leave the public with before we go?
Dwayne, let me start on this one. Only thing I will leave the public with. Only thing I will leave the public is with. I want to see them on the 25th or 26th morning this year. That's all I want. I want to be able to dance my way down there and have fun with the public.
With the public. Dwayne?
I totally agree with Eddie. But going into election mode, we want to send out the clarion call to everybody that has a desire to see the changes in Junkanoo and to be the change that Junkanoo needs. So don't sit back and feel like you don't have anything to offer. You may not have a name in Junkanoo, you may not have a face in Junkanoo, but you may have that one idea that may propel Junkanoo to the level it needs to be. So offer yourself, get with the elders, and my cry is this once again, and I say this to Darren F., who is the PR man. We need to sit down with some of the unsung heroes of Junkanoo, rather than the ones that are always seen in the public, and document some of these things, because when these people move off the scene, we have no history. We have no blueprint. We have nothing to go back on. And that's where all the controversy comes, because everybody say this, everybody say that, it's like a car accident and you have 10 witnesses, you got 10 different versions. But if you sit with somebody who was there, if you sit with somebody who was there during the riot, he can tell you how the riot was rather than somebody spectate. So all I'm saying is, Junkanoo's going to happen again this year if all of these COVID protocols are wiped out. The government has already given the mandate. The JCNP has their new mandate, whoever the new body may be. And like Danny said, we want to see everybody back on feet so that we can keep this Junkanoo spirit alive.
Boy, this chairman's speech sounding good, boy, Dwayne. Sounding good. Boy, sounding good. Sounding good, boy, chairman. I like this. Bail for chairman.
You have your campaign manager.
Yeah, bail for chairman.
You have your campaign manager, man.
No, but I'm encouraging everybody, just like how Dwayne said, I'm encouraging everybody. You know, the posts are open up for nomination into election. Chairman, vice chair, treasurer, assistant treasurer, secretary, assistant secretary, public relations officer. One of the comments that we're getting on Facebook is Jean is saying, you know, one of the things I'm hearing is that a set time needs to be implemented for direct 1 or 2 times a year with leaders of Junkanoo groups, bringing them up to date as to where. Because without some groups may be behind in total information coming from groups reps. And so with that 1 or 2 times a year, the opportunity kills rumors and move that rep if they aren't properly performing. You're still putting that problem back inside the JCNP problem. That is not a JCNP problem. That's a communication problem between the group leader and the group rep. If your rep is bringing you misinformation, the JCNP don't need to do nothing. You need to fire your rep. That's what you need to do. You don't need to hold the JCNP accountable for that. And guess what? Every Junkanoo leader can come to a JCNP meeting. You don't have to send a rep. So if you're getting two different disjointed information, show up to the meeting and clarify it. Get rid of your rep and put somebody else there that can give you the information. We can't keep on passing blame to other people when you have to take responsibility for certain things. That's how I feel about that. What do you guys think?
Darren, I agree with you, but I still support what Jane is saying. I still think the JCNP itself, because the Constitution calls for at least 1 meeting. See, I go based on the Constitution.
Okay.
The Constitution calls for at least 1 meeting of the mind in terms of the Junkanoo leaders. And remember now, the JCNP came out of the Junkanoo Leaders Association.
Yeah, exactly, because the people felt like the JLA was not doing what it's supposed to do. It was keeping the information inside that little bucket and not disseminating it. Okay?
Yeah, you get back to. No, I support you on that.
Yeah,
I support you on that. That's what I'm saying, though.
Is personal accountability from the leadership of these organizations. Not only can they attend meetings, every Junkanoo leader can get minutes from every meeting. So what are we doing here?
That's true too. But I still maintain we at least have one meeting, 1 to 2 meetings with them a year. Just so, because remember now, the JCNP really and truly is supposed to be supporting the vision of the Junkanoo leaders. We're supposed to be supporting their vision, and they gave us the task of that's why the JCNP was set up. That's what. See, you go back again. You said we want to talk about this Constitution, but we go back to the Constitution. See, we got to do what is right. And the Constitution is the ultimate law. It's the ultimate law.
Danny, I agree with you there. But what I don't want us to fall into, is giving the perception or letting members of organizations feel as though Junkanoo leaders own Junkanoo. Okay? No. They do not. They may speak for.
No, they do.
Hold on. They may speak from a position. They may speak from a position from a group position. You understand? But that is supposed to happen after consultation with your organization.
Yes, totally.
That is not supposed to happen on your own on how you feel. Your personal.
Also, we probably need to reinstitute, Danny, the conclave. You know, you will have closed workshops.
Exactly.
Where invite the wider community to come and really hear and see what both Darren is saying.
Adrian, I think that is one of the key issues that the new JCNP board need to look at. They need to organize a constitutional committee to address the Constitution and bring it into line with the practice of today. But they cannot be a body that oversees Junkanoo Group's business. That's an internal business for Junkanoo Groups to deal with. They can't be the policeman for Junkanoo Groups. Okay?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Totally agree.
So I would suggest you form that committee to look at your constitution. You form a committee to look at a Junkanoo conclave. Why are Junkanoo groups sitting back and waiting for the government to determine when Junkanoo groups can sit in conclave and come up with programs and recommendations to advance their own cause?
Yeah,
You know, lazy? What it is?
Well, that is one of the change that is needed. See, like I said, there's so many things we can do to make not only the JCNP better, but make Junkanoo on the whole better. Yeah. And I see, and I always believe in an outside consultation because we don't have to know it all, and there are individuals who can give us ideas to improve things, and I support that wholeheartedly.
Agreed. This has been a very informative show. I want to say thank you guys for coming on and holding my company. Next week I'll tell Arlene and Darren that you guys were phenomenal guests if they don't listen to the show. But I just want to say this has been good, and we it's our duty to give them the updates on what's going on with this JCNP and keep them informative. We're on our way to election, folks. This has been Junkanoo 242. It's all about you in the 242. And until next week, stay safe, practice all safety protocols. Let everything we do prove that we are all proud to be Bahamian. We'll see you next week.
Yay.